Yeah, welcome into the Wednesday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning. We are broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Joe Rexrode, what's going on? How are we doing?
Doing okay. Had some Titans on the field yesterday, and there's some more today and some more tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, I probably sound like I complain about that sometimes, but it's either that or we'd be talking Mount Rushmore of
there's not a thing going on.
You know, Mount Rushmore. I mean, I see like up here we got like the top 10 like NBA dynasties of all time and stuff like that. So
yeah.
We'll take some Titans on the field over that.
We'll take it. No doubt about it. Nick Keyser, how we doing? What's going on?
Good morning. Joe, you didn't notice that Angel Reese got tossed from her game last night? I'm so shocked that you never let off with that.
Wow. Just immediately taking shots at you?
I mean, I did see that.
Yo, you did.
I'm sorry.
So nothing happened last night.
I'm shocked that you didn't lead off with the Milwaukee Admirals being down 0-3.
Yeah, you're going to be shocked. Why are you not starting right off with the crisis of sports in this city right now? The Milwaukee Admirals down 3-0.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I think they're cooked.
I took a nap yesterday and woke up and was like, oh, cool, they're losing.
Wow.
That's it.
You're an Admirals hater.
Wow.
We're
Totally
learning
flipped.
a lot about Keyser today.
Totally flipped. Gets married, and all of a sudden he's just a big hater.
Hey, man.
Wow.
He hates all American sports teams
He does.
now that he's lived
I
in
belong
Canada.
to Canada.
I wouldn't mind staying in Canada, but,
God.
that's all right. But,
Blame Canada.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, Milwaukee may be down, but I'm up. I don't care.
That's good. Way to go. Nice. We got a lot to get to on the program here today. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will be with us in the 8 o'clock hour, and we'll go through all things Tennessee Titans with him, including PK calling out Brian Callahan on Twitter yesterday. So looking forward to that. We'll get into that some too.
Yeah. Pete and
Titans fans responded to that about how I thought they would.
Yeah, I got into those mentions. I was like, yeah, it's about right.
Disappointing.
Just don't complain about coverage.
Yeah, don't.
Just saying.
Nobody cares. Okay. Just keep that same energy.
That's right.
That same energy.
That's right.
Caroline Fenton at 7 o'clock. Got a lot to get into on the program here today. The choice is yours with Nick Keyser at 6:30. So looking forward to all that. Joe, you were out there for Titans Day 1 of minicamp yesterday on the football field. What did we learn? Joe is reaching for his notepad as we speak, reminding me very much of John Glennon, but Joe's got the notepad like it's 1998. What did we learn yesterday on the field from the Tennessee Titans in day 1 of 3 days of minicamp, mandatory minicamp?
So I had a few things that stood out to me. One, first of all, Ryan Stonehouse out there running around, no brace on anything. So that the good news that we talked about earlier this week is you can see it in person there. So that was a good thing. Let's see. I did have Caleb Farley. We talked about Caleb Farley yesterday at safety. He got some corner reps yesterday. Didn't go extremely well. Burks. We're going to talk about Treylon Burks this hour. He beat him badly downfield, but then Mason Rudolph just sailed one, or else it's a long touchdown pass. This is, again, remember everybody. This is they're in the bubble. It's shorts and helmets, and it's not actual football, but it's basically like 7-on-7. Gabe Judy Lally with a big time pass breakup. Levis with a kind of a fade to Hopkins. And by the way, is Gabe Judy Lally the only Valdor Titan in history?
He's got to be. First meet of the day, by the way.
Yeah.
Got to be.
Has to be, right?
I
mean, how many Valdors are there?
Yeah.
It's interesting because they're in the history, and it's different because they're an hour away and they're both like kind of like the same kind of school, but like there's a lot of Michigan State that have gone back and forth, especially like historically back in like the 30s when I don't know what went on. They got like $10 in a bag and at like I'm trying to think like Joe's Diner or whatever like Depression era diners. But Valdor Titan, Gabe Judy Lally. Heck of a play. Now
making some plays.
Now Hop got him later, and so that was pretty funny. Trayshawn Harrison, beat Farley down the sideline pretty badly. Rudolph threw a dime on this one, so that one was completed. Really nice. I really like what I'm seeing from Cedric Gray running around in pass coverage. Really good PBU on a crosser. Malik Willis is the passer on that one. Levis puts one on NWI. My handwriting is terrible. He beat somebody. I don't know who he beat, but I do know that NWI dropped it. Very disappointing.
Not good.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Yes, this one was dropped. This one, so they connected on one, and then NWI dropped one. But NWI, very involved in everything. There's some Boyd chemistry I'm seeing with Levis. Ridley continues. So he just, in the team stuff, I don't know, the ball just didn't come his way a lot. But that's basically what I've got for you, man. Like, that's several hours being out there, and that's you can boil it down to that. Those are the things that stood out. And obviously, again, we're going to talk about Burks. Yep. Burks gunning, and Kuharski, good question, asking about that. And look, I just think Brian Callahan's answer is, it's like, again, like, can we not overreact? Can we not overreact to things look pretty good? Treylon Burks made some good plays. Or Treylon Burks, he's got to do some special teams. Oh, he's out.
Yeah.
Get him out of there. No, I mean, look, it makes sense. If you're not a starter, Callahan kind of laid out his philosophy. You know, if you're not one of the top line guys, which the Titans have made the moves to make us understand that he's not, then you better help there.
So on the attendance/injury front,
yes,
no Tavondre Sweat yesterday. NPF still out. Jeffrey Simmons, everybody apparently was there in some capacity. Not necessarily on the field. So Quick to point that out. Jeffrey Simmons not out there on the field yesterday. And then L'Jarius Sneed was seen just kind of walking around and working off to the side, but did not get out there with the team. Let's start on the Sweat front. Gets contract signed yesterday, by the way. So
he did. He did.
Are we concerned yet at this point? How are we feeling about Tavondre Sweat missing day one of minicamp?
Well, Callahan
Jared very concerned, by the way.
What's that?
Jared is very concerned, by the way.
Well, I'm considering for my rant just playing his opening. It was one of the most unhinged episodes of just complete insane panic I've ever heard.
A 9-minute run.
Thank you. Like, Chicken Little has nothing on this dude.
Yeah.
But the Sweat, okay, so let's go through them again. Sneed, I think this is what it is. So it doesn't feel like an NFL player should never practice and then would be super effective. I don't know like how much he practiced last year, but obviously they're managing it already. So it's a reminder the knee is a real thing. There's no doubt. But when they signed him, it's not like there was no talk of that and then all of a sudden there was talk of that. There was talk of that during camp last year.
There was
concern.
Now, he did hop on Caroline Willie D. Mason and talk about how his knee is fine and that there's not an issue there. And yet here we are. And I realize it's June, so I'm not going to sit here and freak out. It's not like it's training camp. It's not like it's a practice. But he did hop on there and talk about how his knee's fine, and now here we are and he can't get on the field.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, okay, so is it like postseason? I don't know. Who knows? I mean, people get a scope. It's something like right now there's just no point, and then in camp he'll be out there pretty regularly. Or is he a non-practicer who has – I mean, remember like with Tyjae Spears, right? It's basically from medical people, and my understanding of it is like there's just a clock on a knee like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the same thing with Sneed.
Well, and maybe so. And look, quite frankly, if he does what he did last year, which is not practice all that much but play the way he did, then I don't really care. That's fine. But it does make you wonder, like, okay, if it's this big of an issue, when is that other shoe going to drop with a knee where you're not able to play? That would be what I'd be concerned about.
Yeah.
And then you factor in, and Jared brought this up yesterday. I think it's a good point. The Titans were the one that pulled the trigger on this, and other teams were obviously hesitant to do it. So there's a lot of pressure on this Sneed thing to work out if you're going to be the one to do it.
No question. No, I mean I think this move and the Sweat move are the higher risk moves for sure.
Yeah.
High risk and high investment.
Yeah.
The money they gave Sneed, the second-round pick, number 38 overall, used on Sweat. Now, with Sweat, to me, I think yesterday, I mean, Callahan is like, maybe next week he'll get out there. So So that would end up being, if that's the case, that would end up being, what, a 3-week injury?
Yep.
So there's a lot of 2 to 4 week injuries.
3 week in May to June, which may be a little bit different than an actual 3-week injury.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so like if it was a game week, would he be out there? Maybe, but it's a short term injury. I don't know what it is. Pulled a glute, whatever the fat injury Jared talks about. He pulled his stomach, whatever. I don't know. Like all injury, because he's a big guy, because the weight's going to be a constant discussion point with him, does not mean that the weight had anything to do with whatever his injury is. But
maybe it did, maybe it didn't. We have no idea.
Sure. I mean, I get you're more injury prone if you're overweight. Again, I'll raise my hand. We're out here on the Fat and Bald Show.
Yes, we are.
With Robby and Rexrode. But I don't look at that one as a big deal. And then Petit Frere, there's less clarity on him, but he's not out there. He does need those reps. None of this is ideal. It's also like it's just not. It's not ideal, and it's not the end of the world.
Right.
Jared actually said nobody's practicing. Yeah. Like I think I have to do that for the Rams and just play him. He actually said nobody's practicing.
There's not a person out there on the field.
Well, it's just insanity.
I love it. Zach from Nashville on the text line. What's more disappointing for Joe? Number one, Molden/Weaver echoing similar things to Art Key.
Hey, I was the one who asked those questions,
which we will
Chief.
get to later in the show. Number two, the number of players made available to the media, which is a big deal yesterday. Or number three, that NWI was promised, but I guess he got switched out. How are we feeling about that, Joe?
Is that right? I honestly, NWI talked yesterday.
Okay.
So you may be, Zach, talking about a particular program that might have thought they were getting him or something, and they switched, and then everybody had to wait for Andrew to ask his dumb questions. But no, NWI talked. I actually didn't get to NWI. I went to Josh Wiley.
That's disappointing.
I made a choice. Yeah, look, I'm not going to belabor. I mean, Kuharski will come in here. I'm sure he'll bitch about everything.
Oh, yeah.
Like he always does. I'm not going to belabor the point with the media. I do hope Brian Cal. I mean, it's early. It's his first-time coach. We had a conversation with Vrabel about media stuff, his first off-season, and he explained it, and his way was his way, and that's the way it's been for obviously the last several years. And that way was you can get whoever you want coming off the field. That's fair. No, we didn't like it. We liked open locker room better. This is not a good system for coverage of the Titans. So I hope Callahan reconsiders or kind of goes through this phase and then switches up because it's not effective for media. I think most PR people would agree with what I'm saying too. Like more coverage, diversity of coverage. Just let the people be available and talk. As far as so you said Weaver also. I didn't see what Weaver said, but I was the one who was driving the discussion, Zach, with Elijah Molden. So. Hey, we are learning.
Defense.
This explains a lot.
Yeah.
All those times that I saw Vrabel and Shane Bowen screaming at people, I was mistaken. They weren't correcting mistakes. They were like, "You better not have another biscuit," or what? I don't know.
A lot of biscuit talk on this here program. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. More observations from day one of Titans minicamp coming up next. Take your thoughts. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode. 102.5, 106.3. The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning, reacting to day one of Titans minicamp, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll have the choice is yours with Nick Keyser back in the questions chair coming up at 6:30. Take your participation on that.
Honeymoon edition?
As always. Maybe so.
Honeymoon-related
Canadian
questions?
edition?
Maybe a little bit here and there.
Okay.
A little dash of some of those activities.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Just make sure.
Okay.
Make sure you don't screw it up. As we discovered at your wedding, your entire family's listening. No pressure.
Yes,
That's
so
right.
No pressure.
Yeah.
G-Ma will be listening
G-Ma will be
from
listening.
Maine today.
Did she
She's
screw
on a
it up?
road trip, but she's listening.
In Maine.
Shout out again
Wow.
to G-Ma.
Yep.
Maine?
Yeah, they're on a trip
Camping?
right now. No, they're not camping. They're just visiting.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, they.
Well, if there's a time to visit Maine, June or July probably is it.
Yes.
I agree.
Get some maple syrup.
I did not bring any of that back, but I asked Kristen. She's like, I'm okay.
Have you ever been to Maine?
I don't think I've ever been to Maine. I think
Oh,
Maine.
Well, I was thinking about this yesterday after the guy texted in and asked us why we were both fat and bald, and we discovered that his area code was from Delaware. It got me thinking. I was like, do I know a single person from Delaware? Have I ever met anyone from the state of Delaware? And I think the answer is no. I don't think I've ever met anyone from the state of Delaware.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, like Maine, Delaware. Does anybody know anybody that is actually from there?
I know. I've known people from Delaware. I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I've been to Delaware, but yeah, I've never been to Maine. How many states have I not been to? Let's do that the rest of the show.
Let's do that.
Alaska
That's
and
a
Maine.
nice June 5th discussion.
New Mexico?
I've flown over it. Does that count?
Yeah, no. I've been to Idaho. Never been to Wyoming. Been to South Dakota, but not North Dakota. All right.
We're figuring it
There we
out.
go.
We're figuring it out here on the program.
Measuring cheek size.
Oh, good.
Wow.
This file continues to grow for Nick Keyser.
Wow.
It's good stuff. So, on the one more thing on the Snead front, because I understand, like, Titans fans are going to be screaming right now, oh, my God, who cares? It's June. I don't care whether or not he's on the field. And I get it. But I'm listening to Jared yesterday. I'm just watching what's kind of going on right now with him. And it does get the mind wandering a little bit, at least for me, of, all right, clearly there's something going on with the knee. He has talked about how the knee is fine, on with Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. There's been reporting around in the Minnesota part of it that they had an offer for him, and then they pulled it. And you look at the return that Kansas City got for him, and it's not anywhere near a good enough return in terms of the quality of player that he is. So clearly there was concern around, like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the teams that may have been checking in on him were concerned about the knee around the National Football League. And again, you're the one that ended up with him. You're the one that made the trade for him, and you're the one that paid him the money. So if this is some ticking time bomb here, this is something that I think we're going to be talking about all year, like with L'Jarius Sneed. If he's not practicing, again, that to me is not the biggest deal in the world at the end of the day if he can play, but it does start to get me a little worried about what we're going to see from him this year based on everything that's been surrounding him with the knee heading into all this process and the reaction from the rest of the league, which I think you clearly saw in the return for him that we talked about at the time for the Titans.
Yeah. Well, look, yeah, I think that his lack of participation following up the way it all went down with the Titans getting him absolutely increases to me the thought of, boy, maybe there were some teams that were really concerned. You know, maybe how much information did they have different information than the Titans had? You know, obviously this is where teams, I mean, you've got to do your due diligence. This is where it can get sticky sometimes in the league, right? I mean, you've got to lean on your sources and your information. You got to do all you can to figure out what the heck is going on, and also ask yourself if you look around and say, "Wow, we're getting them for this," and why did Minnesota bail and all that stuff. Again, Sneed and Sweat, those guys to me both, not just Sneed, because look, Sneed's a fantastic cornerback. No one would argue otherwise. I think he's one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. But Sneed and Sweat, with the best case scenario, are huge factors on a defense that's probably a lot better for it.
No doubt.
And both of them not as key factors or missing a lot of time or not at their best, whatever it is, tell me how this defense is going to be decent.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
So the two red flag, high risk moves by Rand Carthon are going to have a huge say, I think, in what the defense is this season.
I totally agree. And again, it's June the 5th. So honestly, I don't really care that L'Jarius Sneed's not practicing on June the 5th. But it does make you wonder what that's going to look like all year long. And if he's not able to practice on it, how long is it going to be before that affects him in a game time? Now, look, if he gets through the next 2 years and he plays in almost every game, then who cares, right? Like, okay, it is what it is at that point. But it's just something to keep your eye on, as Jared texts me and says, it's okay. You can say I was right to be skeptical and everyone else was high on Titans lollipops. There you go.
I mean, it's amazing that who does Jared get his feedback from? Every day when I listen to him, he's always like, and you people say, no, Jared, everything's fine. Everything's great. Like, so there's no one in between. I'm already doing my rant early. So there's no one who's in between who's like, well, it could be bad or it could be. It's either everything sucks, oh my God, or no, Jared, everything's great. Dude, shut up.
That was a good rant. Was that
Thank
a preview?
you. Can I just replay that at 7:45? Then Kuharski can shut his mouth too and stop bitching about my rants. Thank you, Jared. I got the blood flowing early.
Yeah, I mean he was fired up yesterday. No one's practicing. There's no one. It's on the field.
Seriously, I can't wait to play this. It's just amazing. Look, Jared was not the only one who said that it was a risk. We talked about it from the start too. Okay. But I don't know. Right now, there's so much information that none of us has. The people in the building have it. I don't have it. Jared doesn't have it either. So it's absolutely a big part of the story of this season. And look, it's a big part of the story of Rand Carthon.
Yes, there's no doubt.
And it could turn out stroke of genius. These teams were afraid. You boldly went in there. Paid very little for one of the best quarters in the NFL. Great job. Or, man, maybe you should have paid more attention.
Yeah.
It could be those. It could be somewhere in between because there is gray area in things, I think.
Yeah.
Like we're not totally bald and fat. I mean, we kind of are on the B&F show.
Are.
But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Hopkins out there yesterday. So it looks like he's not going through a holdout that's hard to go through now.
Is Jared going to tell us he was right about that? Whenever Jared's dead wrong about something, then we never talk about it anymore, right?
Well, he was listening to our shows and then posted a Titans picture on Instagram, and now everything's fine.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We dictate all policy over there. I forgot about that.
615-737-1025, our phone number. Coming up next, it is time for The Choice is Yours. Nick Keyser in the questions chair this morning. We'll get to the Treylon Burks part of all this at 6:45 as well. All that coming up. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
We all have choices to make. Like right now. It's The Choice Is Yours, built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice, so when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice Is Yours, now on Robby and Rexrode.
It is time for The Choice Is Yours on Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by Jarrett Companies, Fire and Commercial Plumbing HVAC Division. Give them a call, 615-515-1290, or visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. Nick Keyser in the questions chair today. Nicholas, the floor is yours.
Sports or non-sports, fellas?
Let's go sports.
Okay. We'll get back to this topic later, but I wanted to go ahead and ask it before I saw it be put in the grid. So, if you had to move UC Saros and it had to involve moving up into the top 5 or top 10 in this summer's draft, what would you do?
So we're talking just solo, straight up, or involved in a package?
In a package.
I would consider it. I would have to see the rest of the package. Like I saw some conversation, and we're going to get into this a little bit later. Some conversation yesterday about how if it was just number 10 overall straight up for Saros, would you do it? And my answer to that is no. Like I'm not.
No.
I'm not,
fast no.
No, I'm not doing a trade for UC Saros for nothing more than number 10 overall in a draft that most people describe as decent, but nowhere near as good as it was last year. And for a pick that, unless you just hit on somebody that grows a lot in the next couple of years, is probably not helping you for another 3 or 4 years. So, no. I'm not doing the solo part of it. I would listen to, if number 10 overall is included in, a package around it, then sure. Yeah, I'd listen to that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Same thing. Yeah, I'm a quick no on straight up. And I understand there is always the scenario where nothing gets done. You can't agree. He plays out the year. You lose him for nothing. But at this point, no way.
Yeah, I think we're all 3 quick no's. One note that I threw in here for myself was I'd be okay if it was considered to be, a package with somewhere in the top 10, maybe New Jersey. We know that, Tom Fitzgerald's talked about that a little bit. I also kind of thought about, would Ottawa possibly want to package something at 7 because they have picks 7 and 25 in the first round? I don't know. Probably not.
I'd do it for Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. So
I'm sure that they would be really excited about that.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. But our first non-sports question this morning, and this might throw you for a loop, but what impression of a movie character can you do best? And no, don't do PK Joe.
Well, is he in a movie?
Well,
here's my whole movie with naked men in the locker room.
It's just easy for you to sound like a Bostonian.
Titans' butts over the years. The greatest part of last season.
Exactly. That was the highlight of the Titan season. Best impression. Okay. All right. I'm going to do this quick because because I did this. I don't know if anybody caught this, but when Vrabel last year went off on Stilly, and he was like, well, you can act like a dude, that whole thing. That immediately brought to me Johnny Fontaine, okay? I mean, I hope everybody's seen The Godfather.
Yes.
You've seen The Godfather.
Yes.
Okay. So early in the movie, Johnny Fontaine, who of course is based on Frank Sinatra, he's like, oh, Godfather, I can't get the movie, I don't know what to do, Godfather. And then, of course, Marlon Brando's just sitting there calm the whole time. And all of a sudden, he jumps up and, you can act like a man! There you go. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Keyser, go ahead. I have to think about this.
Mine is just... This was a question that originated from my wife. She said, you should ask the guys if they have a movie character that they can do.
Okay.
Mine is Stitch from Lilo and Stitch.
You can do a character that doesn't speak anything?
Because, well, he does speak.
Barely.
He speaks, but it's not. I was like, really? You're challenging me to sound like Stitch in the morning? I mean, I'm trying to think of what I want to say. I might just do exactly what he does, but
I mean, you brought this up.
Yeah, this is
I
your
know,
question.
I know, but this is not my origin. I didn't think of this one. I would, okay.
Just do it, man.
I'm trying to think
Just
of what
do
he
it.
would say, but I would just, okay.
The worst movie impersonation ever.
Well,
And I don't even know if it will be bad or it'll be
animated.
good. I don't.
Have you seen Lilo
No.
and Stitch?
So like, yeah, I'm a empty palate. Do whatever
I'll
you
say,
like.
hi, my name is Stitch.
That's pretty good.
Yeah?
that's,
Okay.
that's about right on.
Mohammed's family.
Wow.
That kind of
See?
freaks
Keezer's
me
good.
out. That's good. I think.
I think he might be the voice of Stitch.
Hey, man. That was not my question, but it's a fun one.
The guy read his face. It's right.
I know. I'm embarrassed. Trust me.
I mean, mine is probably just Sloth from the Goonies, right?
Oh,
ever seen it?
Yeah.
You've seen the Goonies?
Yes, I've
That
seen
is
the
shocking
Goonies.
to me.
No, I have. I watched that
impressed.
several
I'm
times.
impressed. Are you guys?
Yes.
Well done.
Love me some
That's-
Sloth. What a great movie.
that's-
Underrated movie.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
Oh man, we all love the Goonies. I hope.
All right, so our second sports question to follow that one up. Who could be a success story on special teams for the Titans with this new kickoff setup? I know that we talked about, obviously, Treylon Burks earlier in the hour to start things off, but who could be an early success story for the Titans on special teams with the new kickoff rule?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, it's not new. We talked about it yesterday, but I do like the idea of Tyjae Spears with an opportunity like that. I'm trying to think. Another guy who I have no idea if he'll be on the team, but just to throw it in there because I will say practice, June, minicamp, very mostly meaningless, but a couple times cooked some people. Can you guess who I might say right here?
Jaquan Jackson.
Kyle Phillips.
Oh, Kyle Phillips.
I'm just saying. I don't.
Yeah,
Right now,
forgot about him.
I would guess no. I'm making the team, but yeah, he does have the quick feet.
I'll go Jaquan Jackson. That's my answer. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
I think punt return is also included in that, but kickoff, maybe you could find a role. Like if he's going to make the team, to me, he's probably going to have to be the returner, and maybe even the kick returner too. So I'll go Jaquan Jackson.
I would say Treylon, no. I don't want to go the easy out.
Go the Israel. Whatever you want to do.
I mean, look, I like that Treylon's gunning, but I don't want to. I wasn't there, so I can't say much about him. But I've heard great things. I'm excited for what Tyjae Spears would have to offer for the kickoff, quite frankly, just because of the elusiveness that we know that he brings. And so how does he look when he gets the ball on a kickoff as opposed to maybe being used in other situations during drives? I'm interested to see how he's used, mainly because we know that he's fast, but also he's got that strength as well. Not Derrick Henry strength. That's going to be really hard to replace. However, they did when Derrick was out. So how do they do in the kickoffs? We will see.
What about Devondre Sweat? Get him the ball.
Man.
Be hard to bring down.
That'd be wild.
I tell you what.
That'd be a good one.
I mean, the thing is, if he gets if he does get into good shape, becomes a big time player, he's absolutely gonna score a touchdown or two for this team, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
You got to line him up at
I mean,
H-back.
Can you imagine the goal line package? Him in the backfield, Simmons at tight end, and then whoever you want at running back. Doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah,
Just hand the ball to Sweat.
Who's stopping that?
Yeah,
exactly.
nobody.
Yeah, if Rabes was still here, he'd probably do that in the preseason and see if it actually worked.
Well,
Maybe so. I don't know.
Yeah, it requires a starter to play in the preseason. But yeah.
Well, all right, our last question this morning, and it is wedding related. So I'm just curious, did you guys have any sort of wedding hiccups in your planning? And if not, just share a favorite moment from your wedding.
We had a little bit of a miscommunication in our wedding between my wife and the DJ. So we gave out our little playlist of just songs that we wanted playing, while everybody's walking out, while the wedding party is walking out and taking their place on stage before the bride comes out. And it was just a bunch of different songs that the idea was to just flow through and just let it go. And the DJ took it as, okay, as each person walks out, I'm changing up the song. So we'd have about 8 seconds of one song, and then he'd play a different one, about 8 seconds of another one. And after about the third time, I was like, what's he doing? He's just changing up songs left and right. It's not what we were going for. But it ended up working out okay. But I'm talking about we went through, I think we had 5 people each in our wedding party. So we went through about 12 songs in the span of 2 minutes. It was a little bit weird. Wife was not happy about it.
Before I answer this question, I would just like to say that Raymond and Franklin said, what's next, New Michelle? Charlie Chaplin?
Hey, I have seen a few of those as well from school.
So my wedding was 22 years ago, but it's funny. The one thing that does come to mind is actually it's a similar time period. It's the introduction of the wedding party. We had a bagpiper. Okay, so the bagpiper went right, and the whole wedding party as they were coming out went to the left. But then Katie was like, "I guess we go with the bagpiper." So, they were, introducing the wedding party and us last. But, the wedding party, was, on one end of, the room. And then Katie and I and the bagpiper went on the other end. And it was like, well, you turn to them and then turn to us, whatever.
In fairness, you follow. If there's a bagpipe, you follow the bagpipe.
Yeah. I mean, it was good to be near the bagpipe. It was very loud, though. When you're standing right next to a bagpiper, it's very loud.
I'm sure it was. Nick?
I would say the one thing that got me perturbed the last few days was 5 days before the wedding. I texted the guys, "Hey, do you have your suits?" "Yes, we have all of them." Okay, everybody had them. That was the most important thing, and Kristen didn't care, so that was good. Everyone had one. The color was wrong.
Yeah.
So it was blue, but it was not the right color.
Yeah.
So you could tell, the ones that you saw us wear that everybody ended up getting, by the way, because there were no problems later on. But Men's Warehouse, I got to call them out a little bit because they made two groups when I initially went in February, by the way. Bless you. And
Thank you.
They made two when clearly I had gone in there physically, tried everything on that I wanted, and then they continued to ship the wrong color of what we had asked for. So that was their problem. The manager was great and worked with me, so that was great customer service on their end. However,
No, don't back off.
No.
I'm still not a fan of
Men's
it.
Warehouse call out.
Yeah, seriously. I mean,
We had one of my groomsmen had the wrong color suit, too. It was pretty funny. Looking back at the pictures now,
yeah.
I'm actually kind of glad it happened. It's pretty funny.
My uncle,
you. You look like a moron.
Yeah, last summer, my uncle, they messed up his suit and they left out his pants.
Oh,
So my uncle
even
had
better.
to wear black sweatpants.
Now that's
That's pretty
fantastic.
awesome.
Yes, and
Well-
it wasn't that noticeable, honestly.
Before we go, this brings up something I need to ask. I need to ask you guys and also the text line, so I'm going to ask you real fast.
Go ahead.
I'm officiating my cousin's wedding in New York in
Oh, boy.
10 days.
Yeah.
Navy suit, got it. White shirt, got it. And then I'm supposed to wear brown shoes and brown belt.
Okay.
I have sort of more like maroon shoes that are really comfortable and a maroon belt. Is it a faux pas for me to ask to go maroon just so I have comfort? Because, Katie bought me, some brown shoes and they hurt.
No, give it a shot.
Give it a shot?
I would say give it a shot,
Yeah,
too.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
All right.
But if he
That
tells you
doesn't
no,
sound-
you got to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to tell my cousin, dude, it's no big deal. But just what do you think?
Yeah.
Can I be a little different?
Your thoughts.
Yeah.
615-737-1025, our phone number. This has been The Choice is Yours. We'll continue the discussion on the Titans coming up next, including some scathing comments about Treylon Burks from a friend of this here radio station. We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Purchase your tickets now for the Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Superspeedway, Friday, September 13th through Sunday, September 15th at MusicCityGP.com. As the racing station, 102.5 The Game has a special offer that is for a limited time. Use promo code GAME for a 20% discount now through June the 16th. Taking your thoughts on the Titans. Treylon Burks practicing some special teams yesterday as a gunner on special teams. Brian Callahan talking after practice about how, well, Treylon and anybody who's not a starter going to have to find a role on special teams, going to have to contribute in some way. So that was kind of the main takeaway from Burks yesterday. Trevor Maddich, on his weekly visit with Stilly on Jared's show yesterday, had some scathing comments about what he saw from Treylon Burks on the practice field. Here's what Trevor Maddich had to say yesterday on Stillman and Company.
What did you think of Treylon Burks, the wide receiver, and Treylon Burks, the gunner on the punt team? Let's start with Burks, the receiver.
Ouch. I've got to tell you, this is just a snapshot, right? It was you and I were out there, Jared, one day watching him in practice. It was helmets only, not full pads, but there were plenty of routes that were being run full speed and being contested by defenders. But those weren't the routes that worried me so much about Treylon Burks. It was the ones that were not contested, that they were running against air, that they were working on techniques on breaks and things like that. And in this one snapshot, Treylon Burks, I would cut him today if I was the coach because of the way he practiced. I mean, one drill that they did was a short in route where there was a big old blocking dummy, and they had to run up about 5 yards and then make a little move and then cut straight across the field to the inside, and the quarterback could throw him the ball there about 5 yards downfield. Well, the other veteran receivers, the young rookies trying to make the team, they saw the play through. They came off the ball hard. They broke hard to the left or to the right, depending on the direction they were going. They would catch the ball, look the ball in to secure it as if they were about to get hit, and then make a move and turn upfield before they would lose their mental focus. Whereas Treylon Burks would come off the ball hard, make a good cut to the left, and then when the ball approached, he'd just pull up. He'd catch it, lackadaisically start to pull it in to secure it, turn and jog up the field a few steps, and he just did that over and over again. When it's not full speed, you still need to have mental focus as if it's full speed.
So that was Trevor Maddich yesterday on with Stillman and Company discussing Treylon Burks. Said if he's a coach, he'd cut him today based on the way that he practiced. What did you make of Trevor Maddich's breakdown of Treylon Burks there on Stillman and Company?
Boy, he'd be a tough coach, man. I mean, geez. And I guess my question back, like if I was in that discussion, I'd be like, okay, so is it just that one example? I mean, I hear him, and I definitely value and respect Trevor Maddich's eye when he's out there watching NFL players. He's a guy who played the game at the highest level and analyzes the game on a regular basis as his job. But I mean, is it just that one instance, or is that just the one example that he produced? You know,
that's a great question. I don't know.
I can't. First of all, I can't lie and say that I just am just absolutely laser focused on Treylon Burks because I really don't feel any differently about him than every time we talk about him.
Yeah,
we'll see. You know,
again, like I heard the comments from Trevor yesterday. And I was like, well, that's pretty spicy. We'll probably have to talk about that. But even in my mind of thinking about that, I was like, God, are we really going to talk about Treylon Burks again?
Yeah, I mean, he is.
I'm going to talk about the fourth, maybe fifth receiver on the Titans team that's now playing gunner. Special teams.
Yeah, it's amazing how he's stayed in the discussion. So that I actually I'd like to hear that answer from Trevor Maddich. Like, okay, so you're cutting him off that instance because I think if you closely watch like a player, like let's say if you go through training camp, and it's certainly different, guys trying to make the team or guys trying to make the team. But if you follow like a veteran who has some level of security, and Treylon Burks does, I mean, he has a first-round contract, for like a week, you'd probably find a rep or two where you're like, geez, man, like give it a little bit more than that, right? And also, if you were doing it, you might not be full throttle every rep. So,
Yeah.
But
I guess my response to that would be, like, if you're in a position like Treylon Burks is in, you probably need to be full tilt all the time out there.
I don't disagree with that.
But the larger point in all this continues to be like the big difference in conversation between what's actually happening and his teammates is pretty amazing to me. Like, Treylon Burks. We played the Calvin Ridley clip last week of A.J. Brown, Julio Jones, Terrell Owens. A guy that big, that fast, yeah, he's going to be fine. We're not worried about Treylon Burks. He's going to be great. And then the Titans' actions tell you, well, they signed Tyler Boyd. They signed Calvin Ridley. They've got DeAndre Hopkins. So Burks not going to be on the field that much. And now the coach is talking about how he's at gunner and he's going to have to contribute on special teams. So there's a wide variance there in terms of how he's viewed on that team right now. And the actions continue to speak much louder than his teammates' words of how good he is.
Yeah, of course. Kevin Byard, one of the best pros I've ever covered and one of the go-to guy for anything. You know, tell me about this player, tell me about this coach, tell me about this defense, this opponent, whatever. I mean, what did he call it? Didn't he say Chig was Travis Kelce?
No, he said
Ferkser.
Anthony Ferkser was a top flight tight end.
There you go.
The word.
Yeah, and you had
that was an all-timer.
Oh my gosh, who's the? He's gone now. Man, my brain is real problematic. The kid from LSU.
Oh, it was
AJ,
Racy McMahon.
Racy.
Yeah.
You know, AJ called him Julio, the next Julio. You know, like sometimes talking about teammates, sometimes the hyperbole can get pretty intense.
It can.
But yes, it is amazing. Like, just in general, how much he's in the discussion, and also the range of possibilities. But he's a guy who is under contract in a first-round deal who – at this point, I watch him out there a fair amount, and he looks fine to me. You're catching the ball. He's big. He's fast. All that stuff. But, yeah, like he's got to contribute on special teams. I don't think that's like a shocking.
No, not if you're wide receiver
development,
4 or 5, you better be contributing on special teams. I mean,
now if you're him, that should be a slap in the face. That
should be.
Or I don't know about a slap in the face, but that should be a little splash of water. Like, here's the reality. Like, you are a first-round pick who now you have a different offense. Like, at some point it gets to like, okay, so here's a different offense, different scenario. They've added in front of you, so you should have some desperation from that. And now also you're on special teams, so how are you going to react to that? You could react to it like being ticked off and not going all out, or you could react to it like kick butt on special teams and keep yourself in the NFL. It's hard. It's hard to stay in the NFL.
Well, I'll say if it ends up shaking out and there's and again, I hesitate, and I'm with you. I like Trevor Maddich. I respect Trevor Maddich. It's hard for me to have too much of a takeaway from one practice observation in June. But if that is what's happening out there and that continues to be a thing where it's just like, okay, a little lackadaisical as he put it, then we're going to have our answer pretty quickly. Like, he's not going to be here in the future moving forward.
Yes.
So
yeah, no doubt. I would like a follow-up on that. I'd like a follow-up. Stilly, did you ask a follow-up? Did Stilly ask a follow-up?
There is a lot of discussion about it. So I've got, I think, 5 minutes worth of audio on it in my personal phone.
Okay, maybe I can listen to it during the break.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Titans coming up next. We'll also, next hour, get into a potential trade scenario that could involve the Nashville Predators that was scuttlebutted around yesterday on the interwebs. We'll get into all that coming up next hour. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Wednesday morning. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com will join us a little bit later in the program. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with him, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Joe, we're going to get back into Titans and mandatory minicamp here in just a few minutes. I do want to touch on this, though, and Keyser brought it up a little bit earlier in the Choice is Yours segment. So the New Jersey Devils, a team that we've talked about a lot around here as a possible link to UC Saros, made some news yesterday. General Manager Tom Fitzgerald, former Predators captain, throwing it out there that they're open to trading the number 10 pick in the draft. They have the number 10 pick in the draft coming up later this summer. And obviously they're in need of a goaltender. They've been trying to find a goalie for a while. They tried to kind of mix and mash it up this year at the goalie position. They made some trades at the deadline, none of which were very big trades. They brought in Jake Allen, and he was okay, but not good enough to be your long-term starting goaltender. So they need a goalie. You've got Jack Hughes. You've got Luke Hughes. You've got some foundational type players on the Devils that you feel really good about moving forward. It was an incredibly disappointing year for them. They got their coach fired. Fitzgerald knows that he's going to have to get this thing turned around pretty quickly with the roster that they have, and a goalie is going to be essential to doing that. So yesterday says, quote, if you feel like it helps us now and in the foreseeable future, then yes, I'm listening as it relates to the number 10 pick in the draft. Said, I haven't gotten anything yet, but the more I talk to teams, I say, listen, I'm open to moving number 10, but it's going to have to be something significant, is what Tom Fitzgerald said yesterday. And look, they've made no secret about it. Like they're looking for a goalie. Everybody knows they're looking for a goalie. They've hired Sheldon Keefe, former Toronto Maple Leafs coach, to be their new head coach here. So he's talked about it openly. Like everybody knows they've got to find a goalie. So when that came out yesterday of number 10 pick possibly being available, that you could package together with a bigger deal, a lot of people naturally connected the dots to UC Saros and the Nashville Predators. What do you make of that idea? What do you make of the number 10 pick being available? And I think New Jersey pretty clearly signaling, Joe, that they're going to be aggressively looking for a goaltender this offseason. If you're Barry Trotz, do the eyebrows go up a little bit yesterday when you see this? Do you not really blink at all because you've known that they needed a goalie? And I think it's been pretty clear that he's been in conversations with Tom Fitzgerald for the last few months here. How do you view the New Jersey part of this as it relates to them being open and willing to move for a goaltender and how it should affect the Predators?
Yeah, I don't know that it would be raising Trotz eyebrows, because I'm sure there's been a ton of conversation. So what's the benefit for the Devils? You almost could look at this like the Devils have, they've talked Saros, so they want to put it out there for other possibilities.
Yeah.
Like the Saros thing must have been discussed, right?
I would assume so.
They're basically joking about it when he was here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I that was what I thought of as like. So are they already like, okay, it's just not going to work because Barry's asking for whatever. I don't know. Like to me, first of all, we talked about during Choice is Yours. I'll say it again. The number 10 pick for Saros, no way. It has to be more. It has to be, to me, prospects / players.
Yeah.
Or singular. Like we've talked about Dawson Mercer before. First round pick from 2020.
Yep.
20 goals, 33 points. Good play. Is that something like? Is he indispensable to the Devils' future? Is that how they view it? Is he untouchable in their eyes?
I don't know that he would be untouchable. I mean, obviously, I think they really like him. Like, to me, if you're trading Saros to New Jersey, like, you want, along with the package of picks, like, you want a guy like that back. Like, Willie and I think, disagree a little bit on how to move forward with the team.
You think?
I'm with him in terms of I'm wanting something tangible back for UC Saros if I'm moving on for him. And tangible to me is not really a draft pick. Like, I want a player back for him. And it doesn't have to be, Mitch Marner, But like Dawson Mercer is a pretty intriguing guy. He's a young kid. He's scored 20 goals last year. Like he's a good player and a guy that has a chance to be a top 6 forward for you for a while. So I don't think you're not going to get a superstar back for UC Saros, but like Mercer would be a pretty nice piece to come back. Is going to be for Saros, but I'm certainly not giving him up for just the number 10 overall pick. I mean, Fitzgerald went on to say, quote, "I'm in the goalie market talking to teams, but there's a but, and the but is how do we want to build our team? We'd like to add up front. We'd like to add on the back end. So what are those pieces going to cost us? With the goaltending, what's that going to cost us? Does the number 10 pick get you the type of player that you can add to the group? It's easy to say, go get so-and-so, and then you build from there. But there are some guys who have different contracts. So how are those players going to reprice that? There's a lot to it, but yes, the focus is on finding that goaltender. So, I mean, he's right there. He's out in the open saying it. I mean, which everybody knows that, but it still is rare for like a GM to be like, yep, looking for a goalie. We're calling teams about a goalie.
That's what I'm wondering. If it's like instead of like texting 14 guys, how about I just say this to the media?
Yeah.
I'm sick of talking to Barry. He's not giving me what I want.
Right.
Someone else trade me a goalie. Barry's like, Jack Hughes. How about that?
I'll take Jack Hughes and Luke Hughes. Take both of them.
There you go. Yeah. So, I think that I think this is probably the team we've talked about the most when it comes to it. And like you said, you laid it out. Like they've got to win next year. And look, I've seen some discussion on Saros, and I think it's kind of maybe like from media / fans, of other teams about how like his value has dropped a lot from the last year. I don't know that I buy that, but I mean the numbers aren't as good, so you could look at it and say, is the trend negative because the overall numbers weren't as good? It was such a bad first half of the season, and it's not like his numbers were fantastic in the Canucks series. He had a couple rough moments in there. I just don't know that I buy that. I think that's a little bit of wishful thinking from another fan base if they think that they're going to get him pennies on the dollar.
No, you're not going to get him pennies on the dollar. I mean, the value has dropped in terms like the biggest strength for the Saros trade has always been the contract, right? Like if you would have traded him last summer,
sure.
You're talking about 2 years left on the deal at $5 million per year and then an opportunity to extend him after that. I mean, it's incredible value.
And you're also coming off a season in which there aren't really questions about that.
Exactly.
With him. He had a really strong season.
So I had no doubt the value has probably gone down as to what it once was, but it hasn't cratered or anything.
Yeah.
Like there's still, number one, you get him at one more year for $5 million, so that's not insignificant. And then you do have the opportunity to extend him after that. So there's still plenty of value there. I think most people who watch him realize that he's still pretty good. And look, I think if I'm a team that was worried about the overall numbers, if you really dig into it, he was much better in the second half of the season and into the playoffs than he was in the first half. And there's a couple things there. Number one, I think we've got enough body of work on Saros at this point to know he's a slow starter. Like he starts slow at the season, and that's what it is. And number two, there was a new coach. There was a new system. I think clearly, not just for him, but for everybody, it took some time to get used to playing the way that they wanted to play. And then once they got used to it, he looked a little bit more like UC Saros. Now, it still wasn't great, wasn't perfect, but I think if I'm a team looking at that, I'm not like, there's no red flag of, I think he's totally falling off the table.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and even like the underlying numbers certainly were way down this year overall, but same thing. They were terrible early. And then they were more Saros like late. Yeah. Another thing with underlying numbers, like ever since Lankinen, and I'm kind of like this in general. Like I appreciate analytics; they are helpful. They help tell the story. Some people treat them as gospel.
Yeah.
The Lankinen's a great example of all the underlying numbers said he's awful.
Yeah.
Well, he played for an awful team. Still, the underlying numbers say he's awful.
Yeah.
Now the Preds had some data that was better than that.
When you talk about, the goaltending stat we bring up all the time is saves above or below expectation, which is supposed to be independent of the team around you. And Lankinen was awful in that category.
Yeah, they can't be independent completely.
Exactly. So it's always, I always get I don't want to swing too far one way or the other. Like,
no, you must pick a side.
Well, people have like yelled at me before, like, you just don't care about analytics. I'm like, well, I care about analytics. I don't let analytics totally inform my decision on every single thing that has to do with the sport of hockey, like some people do.
Yeah, or football, same thing to me.
Yeah.
Again, you can go. There are some numbers you can find that will tell you Will Levis is trash.
Yeah.
And we watched him play. It helps.
It does. 615-737-1025. Our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on a potential trade of UC Saros. Get back into the Titans coming up as well. All that ahead. This is Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com is with us here on Robby and Rexrode, talking all things Tennessee Titans. PK, good morning. How's it going?
Good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
To be in the middle of minicamp, and middle of minicamp also means we're very close to the actual NFL offseason, which is a delight.
It is. We're getting closer and closer.
I'm actually going to miss the big finale next week because when one schedules one's big family vacation, one has no idea who the coach is going to be, better yet when the end of minicamp's going to be. So I'm lucky I didn't schedule it for this week, or I really would have been screwed.
You're going to be gone next week, too?
I am. Where are you going to be?
Seacrest or somewhere there. I don't pay much attention to which town is which because we go every other year with the gang to one of several houses that we've rented in the past.
This is like Jersey Shore?
Yeah, except in Florida.
Oh.
on the Gulf.
Seacrest? I don't know Seacrest. I know the Gulf. Where's that?
I don't know, near.
So I was like, hey, he's going up there with
Florida's big state, you know.
With what? Punchy? What's the people on the the Jersey Shore?
I never watched.
Snooki.
Any of it. Snooki, I know.
Punchy.
Punchy is.
Punchy? Sounds like from Hawaii.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I wish I was going to
Snooki.
Hawaii.
The situation.
The situation.
The situation today is I didn't get the memo that we
They,
got an hour and 45 of you.
they
Not
were
an hour
apparently-
45 of you.
Oh, not that early?
You know, my wife's
you are.
Wow.
My wife is into the Jersey Shore stuff.
Yeah.
And they were
Is it still
apparently-
on?
Yeah. They keep making new seasons of like spinoffs of it.
Wow.
They were in Nashville like last year.
Nashville
Making
Shore?
a show.
You're going to Nashville
yeah,
Shores?
It's like Jersey Shore.
I mean, you are
family
landlocked.
vacation.
You cannot find more landlocked.
There's a Nashville
Percy
Shores,
Priest.
That's ridiculous.
Some standing water for
Old
Punchy.
Hickory Lake.
Punchy, don't pee in the standing water.
Punchy. Where are you making this name up
I
from?
don't know. I forgot
That's
about
so
Snooki.
bad.
Dude. PK, day one of minicamp yesterday. What were some takeaways you had from what Rexrode has described as just a thrilling day in the bubble?
Yeah, it was not a thrilling day in the bubble. It's good to see Landry back out there amongst the missing. Duncan back out there, so that was good. But still a slew of guys missing. I pledged not to make a big deal out of guys missing now. Nothing's a big deal until training camp. But this habitual early round draft picks missing time that's not crucial in terms of the career and all that. I just don't want to hear later on if Sweat is somehow struggling 3 or 4 weeks in where they go back and he missed minicamp. And that kind of thing. When they minimize it now, which I agree, it's not that important, but you can't go back later and say, well, he got off to a slow start. This can't be the hinge on which the door swings. That's a slow start to his rookie year and a problematic thing. And that's been the case for a lot of guys, first rounders in particular, on this team who had pulled hamstring early. I know we'll wind up talking about Burks, and you guys talked to Burks and the asthma thing and the not fit and all of that. And you presume he's doing well weight-wise. Conditioning, though, we don't know body part. I have reason to suspect it's a lower body thing. So is he running in a pool? What are they doing in terms of that? So that's the one of all of the injuries. Again, I'm not going to be concerned. I just don't want them to look back and for it to be something that throws him off track. You're most concerned with the rookie missing time and falling behind. And so, you're looking a lot at guys that aren't out there in that way, shape, and form. Now, this has created some opportunity for some rookies. I mean, you've got a rookie corner who's playing with the ones yesterday who would surprise a lot of people. That's an impressive thing for him and valuable experience. And so things like that are happening, or there's always a silver lining, so to speak, to people being out, and that'll pay off later.
So I'm going to go to Zach, who has been on some takes.
Zachary.
He's been on some takes lately. He's telling me, by the way, maroon is ugly and I have to stick to brown. And
maroon was my high school color, maroon and white.
Is that right?
There you go.
I like maroon.
So, but I'm not necessarily taking his advice. I am going to.
He's really going deep.
Find out if I can wear maroon and maroon
what?
shoes and belt.
He's
I'm officiating a wedding. I'm supposed to wear like the Navy suit, but brown. But I have these really comfortable maroon shoes, and it's like, isn't that close enough to brown?
They're not maroon shoes.
They're like wine.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what they are. You know what I'm saying? It's in that.
Whose wedding are you officiating?
My cousin's wedding in Montauk, New York, buddy.
Yeah, I like Montauk. I wish he'd get a more serious officiant, but that's for me.
I got my license. I'm ready to go.
That's between me and my guy.
Yeah.
But Zach on the Snead thing, okay, says, first of all, the Minnesota, we talked about the whole thing, right? Like, they got him at a pretty good rate, and no one else was in there at the end, whatever.
They said right from the beginning, they told me at the owners' meetings, he was, Rand said, as long as he's available on Thursday, Sunday, Monday, and now they don't have to worry about Thursday, and they only have one Monday. So Sundays at noon, as long as he's ready, they're fine with it. So they've accepted that on the front end. And Callahan said as much yesterday.
So he said, first of all, the report about Minnesota having a trade offer, which is something that Stilly hammers over and over again, is from the Kansas City version of MusicCityMiracles.com. I would take it with a grain of salt from a relatively unknown writer with no known reputable sources. I don't know if that's true.
What did they say?
Basically, that Minnesota was interested in Snead and pulled their offer because of the knee.
I don't know. I don't know if Zach is accurate about the writer, because sometimes there's a range within. I mean, okay, let's go here. We had David Beauclair working for Maven. David Beauclair covered this team for a long time, right? Like, you know what I mean?
Well, this would be the equivalent of Jimmy Morris, and Jimmy Morris at Music City Miracles wasn't breaking stuff.
Wasn't
doesn't
around.
Break stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is those sites. Sometimes there are people like Beauclair who has read about a team for a long time.
He wasn't at the same kind of site. That's not a parallel site to what Zach is mentioning.
Not exactly, but
Jared's saying TD also reported that Minnesota was in. So
was in.
Did he?
Yeah.
Didn't say why he was out. Look, it's possible. This knee is not 100% thing. So some teams may have seen it a different way. Some teams were out on Julio Jones, and that's why the Titans got him, because they knew he wasn't. Baltimore was in on Julio Jones, and then I think Peter King said they were out on Julio Jones because he wasn't going to be an everyday practice guy, and they didn't want that. And the Titans were willing to take that.
So Baltimore got more information on the hamstring because
I think everybody knew already Julio Jones at this stage of his career was not an everyday practice guy, was not going to be an everyday practice guy. He was a maintenance guy. And Baltimore didn't want a guy who was going to be a maintenance guy, and J-Rob was okay with getting a maintenance guy. It's a similar circumstance, though Snead is not as old, and his injury is more clearly defined than Julio Jones, just maintenance for his body, but it's a similar thing. So Baltimore was in, it found out more, it was out. Minnesota was in, it found out more, it was out. Everybody's got a sliding scale for how much they value a guy, how much they feel like they can survive without him practicing all the time, and to what degree they feel like the injury is going to come on or stay in control. The Titans clearly were willing to take a certain amount of risk with him in a contract that really is a 2-year deal, and they rolled the dice and pushed it in a way that Robinson did with several people also. So it's on a similar track like it was with Rand's predecessor.
But you're talking about it kind of like, okay, like Baltimore, we want a guy who practices all the time. More like, I don't like maintenance guys, but it could be that, or it could be more, I'm just not sure if that knee is going to hold up. Like, I'm not sure this guy can do what he did last year another season or another 2 seasons.
Right. Well, that's in there too, but I think Baltimore, if you look at it, they're thinking Lamar Jackson's outside passing game needs him to be on the field working with the guy all the time, where the Titans could say Tannehill, given enough time with Julio Jones, can then be a Sunday with Julio Jones kind of guy, given his experience and veteran passing game.
Mental
Fair?
reps.
Yeah.
Mental reps. Yeah. No,
There's another point on the Snead front that I want to get to coming up next. We'll take your thoughts on the Titans as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Robby and Rexrode, Paul Kuharski with us for the rest of the show, talking all things Tennessee Titans as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Nashville Sounds take on the Louisville Bats at home. Pregame at 6:20, first pitch 6:35. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us here talking all things Tennessee Titans. So on the Snead front, I think this is a situation, to me anyway, where two things can be true at the same time, and I think they are here. I am totally with Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan and the Titans that at the end of the day, if he doesn't set foot in practice all season long, but he plays in all 17 games and plays the way that he did last year, I don't care. That's fine. Like they're 100% correct that really the only thing that matters is what he does in games and his availability there. Having said that, I do think, like, just looking at this from the outside looking in, you got him for a price that we would all agree was much lower than we thought it was going to be via trade. That tells me that there was at least some hesitancy around the league for most of the other teams that could have been interested in him, that the knee is a problem. I mean, otherwise, why is the price so low? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So there is an inherent risk that comes with that of if the knee does blow up on him this year and he's not available, then we're going to look right at Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan and say, what are you guys doing? Like, how did you guys not recognize this when seemingly everybody else did?
And look, never mind what the rest of the league said in not going after him. Think about the Chiefs. All the Chiefs did here was move up in the third round and accelerated a season. They could have kept him this year manageably, though it might have slowed down some extensions, and gotten a third rounder in 2026 as a compensatory pick that would have been further down the third round and had him for a three-peat chance, which is a pretty good piece to have. So you have to think they were factoring it in as well to some degree. So look, I think it's a little bit of a roll of the dice move, but they seem pretty confident in it. The other thing here, it's still the same medical people who evaluated all of these other medical situations. How heavy-handed is the GM, is Brinker, is Callahan, and saying to the medical people, hey, we really want this guy, so that the medical people might round up instead of rounding down the way they probably did with Caleb Farley. You know,
not a fan of rounding down or up medically, but
you know what I'm saying.
That's an interesting way to put it.
You know what I'm saying, though. When you trade for a guy, take Snead out of this, but when you trade for a guy who's got some knee arthritis or whatever, something more minor, you know he can pass your physical.
Yeah.
Right? You know he's going to pass your physical. Now, look, I do think it's a good test, but the way Carthon talked when I spoke to him at the owners' meetings in my one-on-one, he said, we were really on the medicals in terms of the investigation. This is something I learned that I didn't know because I thought it was more of a cat and mouse game in a trade. And he enlightened me to the idea that it's more of a partnership thing. I guess we should have known this, right? But that your medical people are immediately talking to their medical people and that they're sharing stuff. Now, I could hear, Stilly already saying, well, of course their medical people are sharing stuff. They're trying to put one over on you. But the medical stuff is the medical stuff. The x-rays and the MRIs and all of that
medical people are not – it's not proprietary to them. We've been saying that forever. Like, you can't look at them the same way.
And you're
– Sharpie in there. Don't look at this.
Right, yeah. or filling in some
little whiteout. Let's fracture. Let's put a little white out there. Yeah, cover up the fracture.
And so the Titans medical people were looking at the stuff and looking at what Kansas City's plan was for him last year, what he was doing on those days when he was not, what the maintenance plan was. And so the Titans had a comfort level with that. And yes, this is a test. Also, now an X factor that's outside of that is this new strength and conditioning department that will be the guys, Zach Woodfin and his department, who will be doing what is done with Snead on the side field, is new. So I would have more faith in that than you had in the old group.
Joe, I want to get to the Elijah Molden stuff here too, because we've talked about Arden Key's comments last week that he made about the last coaching staff and the corrections or lack thereof and all those things. And You brought up that conversation with Molden yesterday. I'll let you set up what we're about to hear from Elijah Molden.
Well, I don't know if Keyser wants to participate in this right now, but actually, so I had 2 clips from Molden. We can junk the first. It was interesting. He was talking about his injuries and the new strength staff, things like that. But the sports hernia and all that stuff, and a little bit about the scheme. We don't have to do that, but I'd like to hear the Weaver thing, which I was not there for yesterday.
So we'll get to
but
that.
I did the second.
Weaver.
If Keyser is Keyser, Nick Keyser. Hi, Nick. Hey, can you play the second Molden clip, please? The second, the
One on Denard Wilson.
the short Molden clip that I had on Denard Wilson.
The sense of urgency, the attention to detail. If you have one bad rep or one mistake, like he's not afraid to pull you, and you don't take it personal. Just get it cleaned up, go back out there. So yeah.
Is that a big change? Arden was talking last week about how there's more attention to like mistakes being.
It is, yeah, it is. But I mean, it's just a different way of doing things. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we want to be perfect, but also know that it's not actually going to happen. You know what I mean? But that's our goal. So.
Go ahead.
Okay, so there's that, but well, go ahead. You go ahead.
My thing here is, sure, it sounds great that it's a difference. There's more attention to detail. You're not leaving the field before mistakes corrected. I do think at a certain point, as bad as the Titans were, partly because of coaching, partly because of lack of talent, this team was awful, right?
Yeah.
If you're at a Thursday practice and you have a schedule, you may be making so many mistakes that you don't have time. Under the NFL CBA, you don't have time to stay on the field to correct everything. And you say, well, we'll get that corrected in the meeting room on film. I'm just being devil's advocate.
Well,
here.
it also still.
And the other thing is, they're remembering the end of Vrabel and not the beginning of Vrabel. What would they have said on the first day of install with Dean Pease and Mike?
Well, it's all the same stuff as now.
Well, it all
right.
I still, it's hard for me to get away from this idea with the old coaching staff being out of here that everything that you guys should have seen how dumb stuff was around here, and now this bright shining light has come in with Brian Callahan and Denard Wilson. And look, I have no doubt. Like we've talked about Denard Wilson, he seems incredibly impressive to me just watching him from the outside looking in. But these comments from Arden Key last week, and now with everybody else kind of doubling down on him, it's just a lot different around here now. It's like I'm sure the style is probably a little bit different, but this assertion that there's just all this coaching going on right now that wasn't taking place a year ago is just difficult for me to believe.
And I understand the enthusiasm for Denard Wilson, but he hasn't called a snap in the league yet. And Arden Key, love him as a quote, not the most reliable narrator in the Titans locker.
Somewhat hyperbolic, perhaps.
Yeah.
Very entertaining. I'm with you. We all, Arden, keep talking to us.
Yeah.
We like it. But, yeah, it's –
what did you think?
What's
you drove
So it's of note for sure, but it's not.
I followed up, and I was like, okay, I guess – people are definitely going to – it's the same thing. People are going to run with that. Oh, this explains everything. So do we have the Weaver? We have Rashad Weaver, Keyser? Okay, yeah, let's hear that. Let's pile
This was
them all
another.
on.
This was the third tidbit.
Fun, aggressive. Honestly, the first meeting we had him, I told him you had me ready to run through a wall. But it's about he's very hard on us, but he also lets you know when you're doing stuff right. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is sometimes before that I didn't know when I was doing stuff right, but I know when I'm doing stuff right now, and that makes you want to fix all the mistakes because it's being noticed.
That's kind of like the opposite, right?
Exactly. We're telling you when you do the right thing. Wait a minute.
So he's saying, old coaching regime never told me when I was doing things right. Now, he also...
So they never said when they were doing things right or wrong. They're like, I want you guys to
what
guess.
What do they do out there?
You just guess.
Now, he also said, and look, he also said, I asked him about setting the edge because we know that Weaver was unreliable edge setter and that he'd be on the field more in the last couple of years if he was better against the run. I asked him about that, and he said, when I take the right track and do the right things, they've told me I'm among the best in the league, the best on the team, which I said, whoa. So look, I know my eyes have told me he's failed at setting the edge at times. So I went to Pro Football Focus to look at the grades for confirmation here. Not the end all and be all, but sometimes supportive. He had the second worst run defense grade on the Titans to Trey Avery. All right, and I'm not looking for a cornerback like Trey Avery to be among the best run defenders.
Thanks for bringing up Trey Avery.
Yeah, thank you.
Trey Avery, the interview stop sign with Mike Vrabel from John Glennon.
May I interject?
Your thoughts on Trey Avery?
So, again, there's somewhat potential for unreliable narration there. The same guy who's telling us he's one of the best run stoppers in the league, who had the second worst run stopping grade on the team, is saying that.
That quote from Reaver just makes this whole thing even better. Hey, Shane, what'd you think of that rep I just did? I don't know. It just runs off.
That was neither good nor bad.
I have no idea.
And now
We might fix it and we might not.
we will now do yoga, and you will meditate for an hour.
Did I do that right? I don't know.
I'll get back to you.
You tell me, Rashad.
615.
It is all in the eye of the beholder.
1025.
He's like the Riddler.
We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Hey, folks, if you're running a fast-growing business in Nashville, you want to listen to this right now because NetSuite's Business Grows Here events coming to Nashville Tuesday, June 25th. You don't want to miss this. Why Nashville? Because NetSuite knows Nashville is a hub for entrepreneurs with forward-thinking founders, a top talent pool, and pro-business leadership. The business event of the year, Business Grows Here, it takes place at the Conrad Hotel on Tuesday, June 25th. You're going to learn how Tennessee's paving the way for new business growth and capital. You're going to see how technology is shaping the way we grow and run our businesses, fueled by AI. You're going to hear from leaders who have built and led billion-dollar businesses like Jamie Siminoff, founder of Ring Video Doorbell, and Bert Nyhill, CEO of the Tennessee Titans. NetSuite by Oracle's Business Grows Here is free to attend if you qualify. Apply right now to find out because seats are going quickly. You can apply at netsuite.com/Nashville. Again, netsuite.com/Nashville. Block out that calendar, Tuesday, June 25th. Also, there's a link on our website to apply. Go to thegamenashville.com/events.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
Mandatory minicamp. No Tavondre Sweat. No L'Jarius Sneed. No Nicholas Petit-Frere. Not even Jeffrey Simmons. Nobody out there. I mean, I was wondering at one point, was I going to have to get out onto the field to play because they didn't have enough players for practice, or at least players that matter. I mean, I can tell you all you need to know about Jaquan Jackson today, who had a nice little catch. But I'm talking about the players who matter. And I told you guys after the draft, and everybody got mad at me. And I said the Titans have completely ignored what got John Robinson fired. And that was thinking that he could fix injured guys.
It is time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, with that in the background, the floor is yours.
It's time for the Rex Rant on the Fat and Bald Show. Is it now the Fat and Bald Show?
Yeah, we're double balled now.
Sure.
I heard that yesterday leaving the Titans facility, and there was a lot more that was also enjoyable, but I loved nobody was on the field.
Yeah.
Nobody of consequence practiced for the Tennessee Titans
89
yesterday.
guys on the roster currently.
All right.
They need him.
Yes. I will now. You can go ahead and play me from earlier, Nick, because I can't replicate that.
Who cares, right? Like, okay, it is what it is at that point. But it's just something to keep your eye on, as Jared texts me and says, it's okay. You can say I was right to be skeptical and everyone else was high on Titans lollipops. There you go.
I mean, it's amazing that, who does Jared get his feedback from? Every day when I listen to him, he's always like, and you people said, no, Jared, everything's fine. Everything's great. So there's no one in between. I'm already doing my rant early. So there's no one who's in between who's like, well, it could be bad or it could be. It's either everything sucks, oh my God, or no, Jared, everything's great. Dude, shut up.
That was a good rant. Was that
Thank
a preview?
you. Can I just replay that at 7:45? Then Kuharski can shut his mouth too and stop bitching about my rants? Yes. There you go. My rant's done.
Well, I mean, it's weak that you have to play your rant.
No,
again.
I'm not on demand.
So to
I'm
answer
not
the
on
last part of
demand
the
for
question,
you.
no, he will not shut his mouth.
I'm not a wind-up doll for you.
But let's pick up on this because we need to educate the market, which being miseducated again by Jared. There's no game this week.
The miseducation of the Nashville market.
It's constant from him. There's no game this week. L'Jarius Sneed needs to be ready for Chicago on September 8th, which is more than 3 months away. There is no way you should be nervous right now about L'Jarius Sneed for September 8th. No way. I said Sweat, you get a little bit concerned because of the fall behind thing. Who else? You're worried about Jeffrey Simmons right now? Missing non-padded practices?
What about Petit-Frere?
Give me a break.
He needs reps.
Petit-Frere needs reps, but he's probably, what are you going to do? He messed up his shoulder last year, and he's probably still recovering for it. Do you want to accelerate medical science, Jared? Is that your issue? The doctors are not working fast enough to fix his shoulder, if it's his shoulder. If guys are hurt, they're hurt. Petit-Frere's already on the roster. Simmons is already on the roster. Do you want to replace him? I know you want to replace Petit-Frere. Do you want to replace Simmons? Who else? Give me the list. Name the guys who are out. What do you want to do? If a guy is hurt, I know you want to – they can't revamp the roster more than they revamp the roster. It's like it's going to be over 45% new for the second year in a row. Go around the league. You're big on your research. Go look at who's practicing in Kansas City right now, who won 2 Super Bowls in a row. Is it okay for them to be hurt? You'll say yes because they've won before. This is how the league works. Lots of guys don't work in May and June. You know why? Because May and June don't matter that much. They really don't.
I will cape for Jared a little bit here. Everything you said I agree with, but we're talking – I think the conversation is tied to decisions in the offseason. And so Sneed, risk. There were red flags. Sweat, risk. they're red flags. And I will contend that however those turn out, it will have a pretty significant impact on this defense and this season and this bottom line.
Did you say when they traded for Snead and when they drafted Sweat, I'm going to make my judgment about their injury stuff on June 8th.
No, this is where I stopped defending him. No, that was my brief
little.
You
know what?
No.
When they brought these guys in, I said, at the end of minicamp, that's when I'm going to know if I'm right about these injuries. And I'm right. The one guy's fat, and he's out of shape. And at the end of minicamp, I'll know. I will know if the guy is a player in the league or not, because he will have been out there working with Tracy Rocker on the sleds. And if he's not out there working on the sleds, how can he have a career? How is it possible that the guy could do anything in any game in what might be an 8-year, 10-year career if he can't hit the sleds on June 11th, next Tuesday? That's my deadline. If he's not out there on the 11th, he can't play. And Snead with the knee, if that knee can't get him on the field next Tuesday, there is no way. This is more Mad Dog Russo than if he cannot run with the corners on Tuesday, next Tuesday, the 11th, the last day of this minicamp, the minicamp of all minicamps, the most important minicamp in the history of the Tennessee Titans, who I've been watching since I was knee-high on my dad, eating those damn pizzas that everybody hates that I love at Nissan Stadium. If he can't run with the corners on June 11th at minicamp, he's done. Forget about Chicago on the 8th.
Well,
Forget about the home opener on the 15th. Forget about the whole season. It's done.
He just destroyed your Jared Stone impression.
Yeah, you can throw mine away. Imitation, the greatest form of flattery, Jared.
God, that was awesome.
Are there really some pizzas that everybody hates that he loves? Is that true, or you just come? Is that an improv?
No, he loves those the horrible pizzas at Nissan Stadium.
I didn't know that.
Well,
you know so much about him.
There's some sentiment.
It's amazing.
There's some sentiment connected to them, and clearly he used to eat 4 or 5.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More of your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans. We'll get more with Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com for the next hour. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us here on the show, talking all things Tennessee Titans, taking your thoughts as well on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. The text line is blown up after PK's rant with Stillman.
X.
And Diana Rossini weighs in on Twitter.
Said I sound like your mom.
More like my mom than Mad Dog, but painful but great points. This is from Diana Rossini, friend of the program. Appreciate you listening.
The text line mostly in favor. Somebody said something about you getting a genital cuff. I don't totally understand what that means.
I don't either.
I don't either. I don't know why you'd bring it up.
No, I'm sorry. Did that embarrass you?
No, it's just weird.
You put naked butts on the internet. Things happen.
I smoke weed constantly.
Thank you.
You missed. I love the cocaine last week.
Buck Cherry? Is that what it was? Buck Cherry.
Buck Cherry.
Just
your favorite bands.
So we've brought up with the Titans the media access so far during the offseason into minicamp, and it was brought up again yesterday.
I just unmuted myself to clear my throat. I just want to apologize.
I saw that.
I apologize,
well done
everybody.
about you.
Jeez.
PK, you brought it up with Brian Callahan yesterday. So let's go ahead and play that exchange between Kuharski and Brian Callahan after practice yesterday.
Just kind of how it's always been for me. It's just open locker rooms in the spring, put guys in a tough spot. And one of the things I believe in, and this isn't a you thing, it's a me thing, it's as we started to build our culture here, I didn't want guys to have to speak on something that they hadn't experienced yet. And so I wanted to make sure that we got to know the players, they got to know us. And so when they were asked questions about how things go, what we're doing, scheme, and all that stuff, they had things to answer. So it's more of a me thing. Wanted to make sure that those guys were prepared to be in front of you guys and be able to speak on the things that you want to speak about. So that's generally the off-season thought process for me.
So, PK, that was Brian Callahan's answer yesterday to your question about why the media access is the way it is, and it's been a little limited so far. You put this out on Twitter. It says, quote, "This is a Callahan misstep. You're getting all the same stuff from Titans media because we are talking to the same handful of guys, mostly in a scrum. Why is it a big deal to approach Burks today to ask about working as a gunner or Jalen Duncan about returning from injury? I know plenty of you will say you don't care, but a lot of you want as much info as you can get. 3 of the 7 players provided today, Gibbons, NWI, and Elijah Molden, got 0 votes when we were asked who we wanted to speak with." You've gotten a lot of response to that tweet on Twitter. What do you make of that exchange between you and Brian Callahan and the response that you've gotten since?
I mean, it's not an unreasonable answer from Callahan, but I don't see how Sadiq Charles is more prepared yesterday than he was the last time that we talked to the team. There's some graduation ceremony as to when you're ready to talk to the press. And look, the Twitter reaction's horrible, of course. I'm a big crybaby. I'm negative. I hate Callahan. I love Callahan.
Did anyone support you in your mentions?
A few people.
I did. Okay.
But
all right.
but look, I like Callahan. I think everything he's done has been great, and we've had a great offseason because he's been very open and his coaches have been very open. But there's 0 interest from the public in what NWI or Molden or Gibbons has to say, from my perspective. And I'm the editor of my site, and my site doesn't give a damn what those guys have to say. And I stayed away from all 3 of those guys. If you think that tweet, by the way, which is one tweet that you could characterize as negative, go look at all my other tweets. But if you think that tweet's negative, if I went to NWI, my story out of NWI would have been, "Hey, you're finally 5th in line. Isn't that great?" And my tweet and my story about Molden would have been, "Hey, they're looking to replace you. Like, what's the timetable on that from your perspective, and what's it feel like? Like, are you waiting every day to see if they sign Justin Simmons?" And my story with Gibbons would have been like, "Hey, this coaching staff is also fooled initially into thinking that your lack of athleticism could be overcome by your smarts. That turned out to be a disaster in the long run last year. What do you think the timetable is for that this year?" So if you think one tweet about player availability is negative, I saved you 3 negative lines of questioning by not going to guys that nobody in the press room had an interest in talking to. They ask us who we want to talk to. I know for a fact those 3 guys got 0 votes. I talked to them, And Caleb Farley got 1 vote. Well, give us the guy who got 1 vote over the guys who got 0 votes. Give us guys who we've already talked to, who we're more interested in talking to again, instead of guys that we have, again, I'll quote this accurately, 0 interest in talking to. And then what happens is, particularly the TV stations, but everybody else, because we're a weak press corps, go and talk to Jack Gibbons, despite the fact that at the beginning of the day, they had 0 interest in talking to Jack Gibbons. This is exactly what the Titans want. Here's what we'll give you. You'll deal with it, and you'll do something with it. And you'll see this week a whole bunch of stuff on Jack Gibbons. Not because the press is interested in Jack Gibbons, but because the Titans are interested in you talking to Jack Gibbons.
We're a weak press corps?
In that regard, yes.
So,
did you talk to Jack Gibbons yesterday?
I didn't.
Did you talk to NWI?
I didn't.
Did you talk to Molden?
So if I say yes to any of this, this is a weakness. This is a sign of weakness.
You seem to got good stuff
I
out
talked
of
to
Molden.
Molden.
No,
Yeah.
I think you're
like
weak.
talking to
You're
Molden.
weak in the sense that you feel exactly the same as I do, and you've not articulated it. And the press corps is weak in that everybody in that room feels as I do, but I'm the one that tweets it, and I'm the one that gets bashed by the public for
you're
it.
the a-hole.
They're all weak because they don't want to deal with the public on it, because they don't think it's worth the headache, and they won't take a stand on it.
Okay.
If you don't want to talk to Gibbons, don't talk to Gibbons, is what I say. But what they do is they give them what the Titans forced them to take. So in that regard, we are a weak press corps.
Okay. I have a few thoughts. First of all, I almost feel like I should apologize to the Preds because I have been a pretty chronic complainer to the Preds. I've written it in the Tennessean. I've said it on this show a lot because their post-game access is the same crap, and I've always used the Titans as a comparison. The Titans are always – while also I use the Tennessee Volunteers and like college sports, the fact that you have college kids all available after a game. I can go talk to the kid who missed a free throw after an NCAA tournament game or whoever you want in an open locker room for a half hour, but the Preds have a playoff game and they bring 2 or 3 guys out and here you go, everybody go talk to them. It's ridiculous, but the Titans have also been a great comparison point there because the NFL in season still, and you were fearful that it wouldn't happen, PK, forces a mandatory open locker room 3 days a week, mandatory open locker room after game, talk to anybody you want because that's
men.
how it should be.
Yeah. And
They're
it promotes
adults.
the league.
That's how it should be. This is also something that I think that a lot of people do glaze over and like, you media people whining. Why do I want to hear this? That's my hesitation.
I don't think it's a federal issue.
My biggest hesitation with all this is like, do the people that like we are talking to give a crap?
I don't care. I'm feeding you your broccoli, and I'm telling you why the content is not as good as it could be.
Well, that's why they should care, right? That's the reason is because if you really do like following your teams, then you want as much coverage as possible, as much diverse coverage as possible, not the same spoon-fed stuff that everybody gets. And it's a problem with it is the Preds. I think it's the league. The league has to deal with this in postgame. It has to change.
There's no doubt.
It's ridiculous. But this is concerning because we had a conversation with Vrabel when he was first coach. I've talked about this, but I'll say it again. Vrabel took away open locker room. I mean, Callahan yesterday was like, well, open locker room in the spring. Okay, well, we know we're not getting open locker room. Open locker room means you get them for a certain amount of time, and you're at your leisure. You can go talk to someone. You won't miss someone. We were pissed off when Vrabel said, no, get him coming off the field. Remember? Yep. I mean, we actually sat with him, all of us, and talked it out. He won. He's going to get his way if the NFL's not forcing him. But it's like that was a huge issue for us 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 years ago. And it's so early, though.
You can't talk to anybody you want coming off the field.
This is spoon-fed, and they definitely should not pick people that we don't ask for. But also, I'm just hopeful that because Callahan's been so good when he's talking about things, that this is going to be an early switch and this is going to end. Because it's just –
I'm hopeful for that, too.
Look, if you're an NFL coach – how much do you care?
And also give us
If you're in
something.
PR, you care. If you're in PR, you understand the value of, like, you want more coverage, you want more different stories, all that stuff. But if you're an NFL coach, okay, I'm going to win and keep my job. Right. I'm going to lose and get fired. But he's just so good in detailing things for us that it seems like he gets it from a media perspective. Getting it from a media perspective is changing this immediately.
Also, give us something back, yeah? Give us something back. So you want it like this? So Harold Landry's going to talk today. Don't put him at the podium. Don't make it a TV show and a product for yourself. Don't take my questions and Joe's questions and make it yours. Put him out in the field also where we can stand and talk to him and it's not your broadcast. Because what you're doing consistently is stealing our stuff for your broadcast.
We'll have more with Paul Kuharski coming up next. Take more of your thoughts on the Titans as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. I got some tickets to give away, a 4-pack of tickets to see the Nashville Sounds take on Louisville tomorrow at First Horizon Park. Be caller 5, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a 4-pack of tickets to see the Nashville Sounds take on Louisville tomorrow at First Horizon Park. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. On the Hopkins front, obviously he's there, so the people that we were getting text from yesterday that for some reason thought he was going to hold out. Did not hold out. He's there. Holdouts don't really happen in the National Football League anymore. But, PK, I am interested to get your thoughts on this. I mean, the wide receiver market is changing kind of right before our eyes. Justin Jefferson gets the huge deal. We'll see how that affects Jamar Chase and CeeDee Lamb and T. Higgins and all that stuff. But on the Hopkins front, if you're the Titans, how much do you entertain the idea of extending his contract before the season? Do you wait to play it out and risk losing him the year after? Do you think the smart move is to let it play out anyway and see how he plays this year? How do you view the Hopkins situation heading into this season?
Yeah, I think I'd wait to play it out. He's a different kind of guy for an over 30-year-old wide receiver. We know that. But people hit walls at that age, and I just feel like you got to be cautious there. They need to get younger at the position. I would anticipate edge and receiver again being real draft priorities for this team next year. I expect them to be good, but there was not a lot of interest in him last time around. And even if he has a second good season here in a row, I don't know how much interest there would be on the market for him.
I think, though, but last time, the lack of interest a year ago, I think there's got to be some teams that are like, oh, yeah, we misread that, right?
Right. But 2 years older,
yeah.
I think, there's
32
still,
tomorrow.
And it only takes one. But if it was me, I'd wait it out. Unless it's something very reasonable, and you don't want to insult the guy right now.
Yeah. So I'm extending him, giving him 17 and 25.
17.
Will he take it?
17 million?
How much guarantee? 17? You're saying
11.
Huh? I don't know if he takes.
Is that an insult?
I don't think it's an
I
insult.
don't think it's an insult. And you could offer him that, but then if you offer him that and he doesn't take it, he's going to want to negotiate. Do you want to get into a long negotiation here between now and the beginning of the season that might not end with the contract and might leave ultimately a bad feeling?
I think
there's a lot of
worse feeling than if you
potential for
don't even mention it.
Yeah, the majority of the league doesn't get it mentioned when they're going into the last year of their contract when they're 32.
I think it's a good faith thing to show interest, but that's just me.
Well, I think there's a natural assumption from most people. And I don't know where I fall on this. I don't know how the Titans view this, but there's a natural assumption. Oh, he's got one more year left on his deal, and then after that, he's gone. So Boyd's here for 1 year. Hopkins is here for 1 year. You got Ridley locked up, and then you got to figure out receiver after that. We've talked about this. Like, there's not a scenario that's realistic this year for the Titans to where drafting a receiver high next year should not be a priority. And that's if Hopkins plays great and you re-sign him. Ridley, they need to. You got to find the next guy.
Other than Burks being a ridiculous breakout superstar.
Reclamation. Yeah.
Which
so whatever percentage chance you put on that.
Even if that happens, I'm still
drafting
they need a wide receiver.
Yeah. So there's not a scenario to me where you can avoid drafting a receiver high next year. But like Hopkins, I'm with you, PK. Like, I do think his game, even at age 32, age 33, has a chance to age pretty nicely because of the way he plays.
Yes.
And, I'm not saying that he's going to be an 1,000-yard receiver for the next 5 years, but he gets open. When he's not open, he can still make contested catches. So I'm not willing to say that, well, they've got DeAndre Hopkins for one more year and that's going to be it, and they're going to have to totally revamp the receiving core after that. I would be interested in having him here for a couple more years based on his style of play.
I don't think you'd write it off like we're definitely not having him back. I don't think on their spreadsheet they've got a blank in his spot for next year. But I don't think it's a guarantee you're going to have him back either. I think you need to see what happens.
If I'm him and his agent, because you hit on a point that's very important. See, I think last year teams look. I was totally down on the idea of Hopkins a year ago because so he's all of a sudden having all these injuries. He's got this PED thing. Oh man, and he that just sounds like disaster. And of course, you also have the immediate aftermath of Hulu and everything. But after the way he performed last year in an awful offense, with really everything else around him not good, like him and T and Derrick Henry. I mean, I think a lot of teams probably did regret that, but like you said, 2 years later. So if I'm his agent and I got some kind of certainty for 2025, even though you could roll the dice and say, hey, maybe I'll be so good next year that the market's going to be way better. 2 years later, I have my doubts that it will be. So I don't think he would be offended by, an offer that it would go bad for them to explore the idea.
See, I'll just keep going volleying with you, so to speak. I think the Titans, seeing that there was so little interest in him last year, 2 years older, drafts just coming and coming and coming with receivers every year. I don't know what next year's draft is like, but I presume it'll be another good one because I presume every draft is going to be good with receivers. I just don't see a world where there's going to be much demand for him. And so I think that favors the Titans next year and allows them to look and see what he does.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, regardless, that's the one part about this year, and I realized they obviously had to address the offensive line, and they did a great job of addressing wide receiver in free agency. It's still, you look at the roster right now and you say, where's the next young guy? And it's not, Burks to me is, again, he gets brought up
You're
too
cutting
much.
him today. You and Trevor are cutting him.
I'm not
today.
cutting him today, but I again this morning was like, oh my God, we're talking about Treylon Burks again at 6:45.
And by the way, to Trevor Matich's comment, I mean, Burks looks like that. I mean, the way he described Burks isn't it what Burks looks like all the time?
I don't think all the time, but if you think all the time, then you should want to cut him too.
I mean, I think he's a bad body language guy, and what I heard was a description of kind of what his body language is like, post play body language.
But it was also loafing.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, that's
not everybody runs through the catch with the same
vigor,
authority, and vigor that you would like. A very good word, vigor. And he's one of those guys that doesn't. You'd like to see that improve. And it was pretty remarkable the change that came with, and I'm not saying I forecasted it or talked about it, but we shouldn't be surprised that Brian Callahan says the fourth receiver on his team is going to play special teams.
Yeah.
That shouldn't have been this overwhelming shock that it was yesterday. He gave a fantastic explanation of it. Now, I would have loved to have talked to Burks about it.
Yep. Both things can be true.
Yep. But
good explanation by Callahan. No Burks.
Yeah.
Right. And typically you hear that from a coach, and then you go to the player for more reaction on it. But that's no surprise. And, Farley's listed in there. Well, Farley was playing only special teams when he suffered his last injury that knocked him out for the last year and a half. He didn't suffer it playing special teams, but that's how poorly he ranked on a depth chart in 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the disconnect we were talking about earlier. I mean, like you said, Joe, this is not the first time we've seen it. Kevin Byard said Anthony Ferguson was a top-flight tight end in the league. A.J. Brown compared Racey McMath to Julio Jones. So we've seen some hyperbolic statements that these guys have made before. But when you got Calvin Ridley talking last week about, Burks, we're not worried about him. I mean, he's Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, and T.O. That's what he looks like. He's just big and fast. You got the teammates saying one thing, and every part of the actions of the Titans tells you something else.
And the thing is, those guys are talking about Burks' tremendous athleticism. You go look at Burks' RAS. He didn't qualify as a tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
He's a guy
who's
fast
got
for his size and speed.
Yeah, fast for his size.
He's fast for his size.
That's the extent of it.
Did Chris Johnson ever say, like, Lendell White's the next Franco Harris or anything? You got to have some good ones from the archive.
He did not, but they were tight and pumped each other's tires for sure. I mean, Chris Johnson didn't need people pumping his tires.
You and the rest of the weak press corps just lapped it up.
Jake Locker,
I wanted to talk to Chris Johnson and Lendell White. He was a great talker.
Yeah, he was.
But I didn't have to beg to talk to them.
Smash and dash,
Keeps
baby.
coming back around.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More with Paul Kuharski coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com with us talking all things Titans. PK, what have you seen from Levis so far this offseason? What have been your impressions about where his game is entering year one with Brian Callahan?
I think it looks pretty good. Certainly has command, sounds very confident in it. Talked yesterday about, and you would hear this from everybody, but feels certainly sincere, not that he's insincere, about this offense has an answer for everything. And it seems like he feels like he knows the answer for everything, or is on the verge of knowing the answer for everything. I thought it's funny / cool that he wore the No Bull, QB1 shirt, which is the official combine shirt. He was quarterback 8 when he was at the combine, but he's quarterback 1 now for the Titans. And comfortably wearing that.
He said he did not choose that, by the way. He just grabbed one of the shirts.
Yeah, but I think he's given that shirt as the promotional shirt because he's a No Bull guy now, and that's the shirt you would probably buy from No Bull. So, I think he's in a really good place, and he should be in a really good place at this stage. They're all in with him. He's all in with them. He's got the receivers now, but there's another stage to this where he gets used to the protection with pads on in camp and learns more about that. Learned a little bit about the degree of his friendship with Josh Wiley yesterday, who sold him out as a 110 stroke golfer on a bad day.
He said he shot a 111, but he also said that
that was a bad day.
He shoots in the 80s. Sometimes
I can attest.
That's a bad
pretty
day.
Much me.
Yeah.
To go from
anywhere from about 85 to 110.
Yeah.
Is what I do.
It's a good range. I mean, it's
it is.
That's a good. The high end's good.
It really depends on how I chip and putt.
Yeah, said he's not conscious of what a dividing figure he is, so to speak, in terms of public perception, which I think you could put a circle around Middle Tennessee, where there's a high expectation of him and. Everything else, there's a low expectation. Though we've talked about some national pundits who like him a lot.
Yep.
But the general feeling outside of that circle is not good. And he doesn't care or isn't conscious of it, which he shouldn't be.
Well, first of all, I do feel like I'm with everything when you talk to him. It's very impressive. And obviously we've talked about Brian Callahan and his confidence, which has gone up since being around him. I do feel like he's sometimes a little late and behind in some throws that I've seen, which, again, this is
I'd agree.
It's barely worth mentioning, but it's not like you're out there, you're like, whoa, everything is a laser on time and on target and all that stuff. I mean, but he kind of talked through that yesterday, too, about just the split-second improvements needed with the offense and finding the answer and all that stuff. So I think that with weekly talks with him are really interesting and good, I think, and probably should bring confidence to Titans fans. I also think there is it's almost like with the team in general, like this whole, well, last year you guys said the Titans were going to be good. National media is off base. Titans were bad. And so now all these Levis haters are out there, and you're telling us that Levis is good. Why should we believe you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I've raised my hand and said I misread last year's team and had more faith in it and in Vrabel and his staff's ability to pull more out of that team.
They would have corrected a mistake or two. It might have worked out.
Yeah.
How did we know they wouldn't correct mistakes?
Right. And a last go with Tannehill and Henry. I thought they'd be better than they were. I'm withholding judgment on this team because I think it could take a while for things to come together, and I think something invariably will go wrong that we don't anticipate because something invariably goes wrong with the winner of free agency all the time, and if they're not the winner of free agency, they're top 3. And so that's generally the way it goes. And I don't know why they'll be an exception to generally the way it goes. So maybe that's Snead's knee or, something blows up with somebody early or who knows. But we know they're not deep. And so we've seen their depth tested time and time again. If you test their depth at the wrong spot, they're in trouble.
So there's one scenario this year to me that's a total nightmare for the Titans, and that is Levis missing time, particularly significant time. So let's say for a second that he's got to miss some time at some point. What do we think about Rudolph as a backup quarterback? And is Malik Willis going to be on this team by the time week 1 rolls around? What do we think of those two questions?
I don't think Malik Willis is going to be around. I mean, I look at him now with the snaps he gets, and he just looks the same.
Practice squad after all is said and done?
Perhaps.
Value in that?
Perhaps. But perhaps
look
they
elsewhere?
find somebody elsewhere that they like better. You know, Mason Rudolph, you hope, is a guy that could keep you at 500. You know, that's your ideal backup unless you have one of the best backups in the league. I don't know that he's that, but that can keep you 500 while your quarterback's out. Is he out for 3 weeks? Is he out for a month? Can you go 2-2 while he's out? If he's out for 6 or 8 weeks, you know, going 500 during that may not be enough. The other thing I think about the Titans this year and a cause for concern is that I think Houston is going to be very good. I think Jacksonville could be good. And if those teams are pulling away from you in any way, that's another thing that makes it hard. This division has you big as it's been in recent memory.
No love for the Colts, huh? Indy Ben?
I'm not into
Let us know.
I'm not into the Colts. So if the Colts are good or if the Colts are better than the Titans, then you've got a real divisional issue. And if you've got a divisional issue, you've got an overall issue.
A life issue.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the perceived notion here, I mean, I think everybody would agree on paper the gap between the Titans and Houston right now is pretty large. Jacksonville? I don't know. Like, I don't know what to think of Jacksonville. They've changed some things up. Obviously, they lost Ridley. Gabe Davis is in there.
Issues.
Sure.
But 2 out of 3 should just be banned formulaically. The Titans didn't get that this year, but they get it almost every year.
And the Colts have had that a few times.
Well, they're close. I mean, they got Jacksonville on December 8th and then Jacksonville again December 29th. So it's not 2 out of 3, but it's pretty darn close. It's
better than it's been. They're progressing in the right direction.
615-737-1025, our phone number. More with Paul Kuharski from paulkuharski.com coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game.